Hey everybody, so in this video I'm going to talk about hand orientation at the piano, part 2, black keys and large chords with ease. So if you're having trouble playing chords comprised largely of black keys, if you're having trouble playing or even just reaching overall large chords overall, I'm really hoping that these ideas are going to help you to solve those issues. And on this channel, I hope to share with you strategies, methods, insights, etc., often of my own creation that I hope will help you in your piano playing, hopefully even other areas of your life as well. And yeah, there is a part 1 to this. I believe I called it hand orientation and shape at the piano. And so this is meant to be a small extension of that, not expecting it to be as long. You can search for that part 1. I think it'll provide a lot of useful context, a lot of examples. Might seem strange to group black keys and large chords together, but I realized I could still say a little bit more in terms of black key chords overall, because most of the examples that I gave, my thumb was on a white key. I think that most of the chords that I showed, even the large ones, they were on white keys. I said quite a bit about large chords too, but I can say a little bit more here. So let's get right into it. So overall, what I was saying partially in the first video was about how these three fingers are perpendicular to the soundboard in terms of hand orientation overall, I mean. And then the thumb's playing with the very corner, and the pinky's just where it falls as a result of those first two things that I said, right? These fingers roughly perpendicular in a 90-degree angle, and then fall board, I mean, to the fall board, and then the thumb playing on the very corner here. So this is what it would look like if we're playing on white keys. And again, this is because if you're playing, let's say, like this, as I explained in the first video, it's very possible that you'll be forced to like isolate your fourth and fifth fingers alone instead of actually using the natural weight of your arm. So the first video goes into much more detail about the specific reasoning there, examples, and so on. And also, if you're not playing with the corner of the thumb, if you're so oriented towards the thumb this way, it's really very difficult to reach further. So not only is it less healthy, it's also much less musical because it's harder to play out the tops of the octaves and chords louder. And sometimes you cannot even physically reach the keys as a result of being so oriented this way. So first of all, you don't want to bend the thumb. Secondly, you don't want to play with the thumb all the way up here. You're likely playing just with the corner of the thumb. And the larger that the chord is, the more that you're going to have to play at the very corner in order to even reach the keys. So overall, we would like, let's say it's a small chord, something like this. A medium-sized chord for me would probably be an octave. Might be smaller for you, and that's totally okay. If I'm playing at the edges of my reach, well, this whole three fingers perpendicular to the soundboard idea, that becomes less possible. And I did not really talk about that so much in the first video, but, when we're at the limits of our reach, well, our fingers are forced to be straighter overall, and the angle will change a little bit, but we still are not going to be thumb oriented in this way. Now, if we're playing on black keys, believe it or not, I really do preserve pretty much the same orientation. So if I'm playing, let's say this, if I were to play this on black keys, I'm like this. So a lot of the time when students start to play black keys, they will go like this. Like they're approaching the black keys completely differently, even if this were relatively healthier. So we really just want to take this overall orientation of the hand, not this, and just move our entire hand over. And so like if you have longer fingers like me, they may be almost even touching the back part of the piano or the keyboard. And I'm still playing with the corner of the thumb. And you still don't want to go like this or bend your thumb or be like, all the way over here. And the larger that the chord is, indeed, it's the same. You would have to play with the very, very corner of the black key, believe it or not, right? So that's what I would like to say there. Still three fingers perpendicular to the fall board, and then the thumb playing with the corner, and overall preserving this orientation. Let's say that I were playing perhaps this C sharp, but I'm playing like a G or an A. Notice that my orientation is still roughly like this. A lot of students would play like this, which I don't think is a good orientation to achieve a good sound and be healthily aligned with the rest of your arm and nice and relaxed. Okay, so basically the short version of this is that you're still following all of the principles that I talked about in the first video at length, you do not, just because you play black, like if you play white keys like this, do not go like this. This is a pretty funky chord, but if I were playing this, I would still be oriented like this, right? So I just slide in my whole hand. I'm still playing with the corner of the thumb. These fingers are kind of like touching the back of the piano almost. Okay, so that's the general idea with black keys. Do not change the orientation of your hand. I'll give some more examples. Okay, let's say I play this. How about this? Right? Still, corner of the thumb, corner of the key. Overall hand orientation is preserved. Never like this, because again, this is unhealthy in terms of this alignment. It's harder to play the tops of chords out louder, and a lot of other reasons as well. Now, in terms of playing large chords, already spoke about this at length in the first video, but I'll say even a bit more here. So here are the factors that determine whether you can play something at the edges of your reach, I would say. First of all, you want to be completely relaxed. So if you're playing a given chord or octave, you relax the fingers. If there's any other fingers that are depressed here, then you relax those. You relax your wrist, arm, elbow, everything. I talk about holding and relaxing in a lot of my videos. But yeah, the general idea is you just hold whatever it is you're playing and you relax everything as much as possible. Good to move your wrist up and down a bit. See if you have some flexibility there. And what else determines your reach? Well, if, again, you're thumb oriented, this really, look at how much my reach is reduced. I can't even reach, because for me, I can fairly easily reach a 10th, and it's like impossible for me to reach it now. So let's say it's another person, and let's say that they normally can reach a 9th if their hand were oriented well. Well, as soon as you do this, they would barely even be able to reach this, right? So you don't want to be thumb oriented. You would want to be on the edge of the key, on the corner of the thumb, and the larger that the chord is, the more that we're going to, this would be the absolute limits of my reach, and this is not even practical for me. You can see that it's literally impossible to reach this unless I am playing with the corner of the thumb on the very, very corner of the key, and my fingers are completely straight, and yet they are relaxed as they can be at this length. So I'm not overextending. I know it might be hard to see, but this is if they're relaxed, and if they're tense, it's subtle, but it's just a matter of, this is why at a certain point, and I have this discussion with students a lot, it also becomes a matter of people doing yoga or meditation or whatever mindfulness practice that you do, because the teacher cannot experience your bodily sensations for you. They can take care of the things that are even possible to see, right? I don't know. I hadn't thought about this a lot until my teaching, I would say, evolved even more the last few years. You can fix fingers in the air. You can fix meaning teach the student to relax more. You can have the keys not depressed when they're tens. You can ask students to relax the wrist, arm, shoulder areas that are visible, but then the rest, it could look perfect on the outside, but they're still carrying little bits of tension. So that's really up to you to find how to release those last little bits through mindfulness and awareness of your own body. So obviously we try to do that as much as possible. So anyway, so you're completely relaxed. The larger the chord is, the more that'll be on the very, very corner of the key, corner of the thumb, corner of the key, straight, relaxed fingers, if it's a large chord at the very limits of your reach. If it's not at the very limits of your reach, you can refer back to the first video where I talked about keeping this loose structure here. Fingers gently curved, but not overly curved either. But again, in terms of large chords specifically, let's say I'm playing something like this. So if I'm playing a large black key chord, it might look something like this. Fingers mainly straight. If I bend my fingers, my reach will also be reduced. So again, not thumb oriented, corner of the thumb, corner of the key, probably the very, very corner of the key, straight, relaxed fingers. Practice holding and completely relaxing everything, wrist, shoulders, everything like this. You try to preserve this general orientation as much as possible with 3 fingers perpendicular to the fallboard, but the larger that the chord is, the more you might have to bend the rules a little bit. And yeah, any kind of little thing, any bending of the fingers, any kind of little bit of tension, not playing with the corner, not being at the very, very, very corner of the key is going to reduce your reach. Honestly, try it. If you're playing like a normal person, you're almost definitely breaking at least one of those little rules I just said. And so this should increase your reach pretty much right away if you follow this, and in a more healthy way too. I do not advocate like artificially trying to stretch your hand through different exercises or anything like that. That's only going to lead to injury. So it's so important to continue to practice holding and relaxing, to practice awareness of your own body. And if it's a large chord that contains black keys, then you're still at the corner of this key, not over here. You're actually over here, yeah? That makes it easier to reach. And even if you could reach this already, it gives you a little bit more reach so that if you wanted to, you could put more volume on this top note, which we call voicing in serious classical music as well too. And then these other fingers are straight yet relaxed. And I'm not oriented this way. Some other examples. Okay. Right, straight, relaxed fingers, corner of the thumb, corner of the key. So that's what I would say here. So those are probably a lot of examples of both black key chords, some of which were smaller, like I explained earlier in the video, and then large chords of all different kinds, white keys, black keys. Now, I am very fortunate that I have a relatively larger hand. If I meet somebody with a noticeably larger hand than me, that I'm like, whoa, that's very unusual. But it's happened, and the reason that I am showing you these chords is because I need you to see, like, if it's at the limits of reach for me, what does my hand typically look like? If your hand is smaller than mine, that's, of course, like totally fine. Like, we all have different bodies, we all have different hand shapes and sizes. But if the very limits of your reach, let's say, is a ninth, like from C to D or something, your hand should likely be looking similar to what I was demonstrating, right? So you just adjust for the differences. What I was showing is basically the very limits of what I can reach healthily. And so your hand hopefully will look similar to that when you're at the very limits of what you can reach healthily. It doesn't mean that you should be trying to play those same exact chords necessarily. And I'll also say briefly that even with hand size, there's still different amounts of flexibility between different fingers, different finger lengths. Even just talking with a colleague recently, it was interesting that even though our hands are similar sizes, there were different amounts of flexibility between different particular fingers. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. I know, like I was saying in the first video and other videos, I know it's redundant. I know it kind of seems like maybe I go on even longer than necessary, but I think it's because, well, I feel that by showing more examples, more contexts, more nuance, in line with the learning research, it's more likely that something will sink in and something will break through. So go through hand shape and orientation part 1, go through this video again, let me know if you have any questions, but hopefully this is valuable to you. If so, please like, subscribe, let people know about the channel, and looking forward to the next one.